Hello guys, recently I have uploaded a video about the BEV sales growth in the past and the possible BEV sales growth in the future. Today I want to talk about a complementary question: how fast the ICE sales will collapse. And at first sight this seems to be an easy question after we have discussed the BEV sales growth. However, we will look into the data in more details and we will take into account that there is a chip shortage currently and there can be a possible rebound. And we will also talk about a separate question where we take a look only at the passenger vehicle sales. And as you will see, the collapse there seems to be faster compared to the collapse of the ICE sales for all the vehicles, and by all the vehicles I mean both passenger and commercial vehicles. So why is the collapse of the ICE sales important? It is important because there are some companies which are late in the transition to BEVs. There is a lot of talk about companies may go bankrupt or not, and I think that there is a serious danger for some automakers. So it is important to see when this collapse will come. And because this topic might change your view about several automakers, please understand that I am not a financial advisor. Nothing in this video is a financial advice. And I am not responsible for any of your investment decisions. Okay guys, we will start with a Cleantechnica article and then I will show you my own numbers and my own prediction. There are certain things which are similar and there are certain things which are different. And this article was written on 9th of March. It is titled "The Global ICE Industry Cliff is Here." And what do they mean by this? Here is the main chart in this article. With blue you can see the BEV sales. Of course, from 2023 everything is an estimation here. With red you can see the ICE sales, and by ICE we mean everything except BEVs, so even hybrids and plug-in hybrids. And with green you can see the overall motor vehicle sales. And as you can see, in 2017 it was around 100 million. And by 2020 we went down below 80 million due to the Rona. Then we did have a slow recovery, mostly because the chip shortage. And Cleantechnica is using an estimation where the overall vehicle sales will grow relatively slow. They are using a 1.6% year-over-year forward growth from 2023. That is not a lot, in my opinion. I believe that a much higher growth rate is possible in the next 2 years, up until we reach 100 million units per year, but only if the chip shortage ends in the next 2 years. And personally, I believe that it is very likely that the chip shortage will end during the next 2 years. So you will see that my numbers are closer to 100 million in a very short time. For BEVs, they are saying that they are using a 50% year-over-year growth for the future. And this is because the average BEV growth was 57% for the past 7 years. This is about what I have showed you in my previous video. So I will also use the same prediction for BEV growth. The only difference is that from 2024, Cleantechnica decreases this growth rate by 2% each year, so it will be 48%, then 46%, etc. They are doing this because they think that the volume will grow for BEVs, of course, each year, and as the volume grows, maintaining the same 50% year-over-year growth is getting harder and harder. My numbers about BEV growth will be about the same than here. And their main point is that from 2023 you can see the collapse of the ICE sales. First it is slow, but it gets steeper and steeper around 2026. My numbers will show a slightly different picture, but this is the main idea. I will also show you estimations on a longer time interval up until 2028 or 2029. Okay, so they are calling this a cliff. This doesn't seem to be a very big cliff for me. Maybe in 2026 it seems to be a big cliff, but this is how they call it. However, my data will show you the cliff a little bit more, I believe. So now this is my Google Sheet, and this is in the same spreadsheet which you could have seen in my previous video. However, this is a new sheet and I will show you new charts. First, let us take a look at the B column. Here are the BEV sales in thousands. So this is 7.6 million in 2022. And these are just estimations using a 50% growth scenario. Here in 2029 you can see a very large number, 131 million, and it is very likely that in 2029 the overall vehicle sales will be much below this, certainly below 110 million, I believe. So why is this number so high? The reason is that so far we have seen BEV growth on an exponential curve, and I have also used the continuation of the same exponential curve in my estimation, and it looks a little bit similar to this blue exponential curve. Of course, this is for the BEV share, and it goes into 100% fairly quickly. However, in reality, the technological changes are not following the exponential curve completely. They start as an exponential curve, but after a while they slow down and touch the maximum value more slowly. In other words, technological changes usually follow this famous S-curve. So why have I used a simple exponential function? Simply because it was easier to calculate. And in my opinion, the last part of the S-curve is harder to predict, and also it is not so important. In my opinion, the important part is until 50% or 75% penetration. However, we should keep in mind that these numbers will be lower in reality. Now let us move on to column C, and this column contains all the vehicle sales in the world. And this data is coming from this IEA.org website. I have simply used this data, what you see here, and it goes until this orange color follows. We should know that I will not use this data, only the first one. The first one is similar here and here. And the reason is that I have found several sources for these and other data, and they do not match completely. They are close to each other, but they do not match completely. So I had to choose one of the sources, and I have used this Morningstar source, mostly because they have a good prediction in my opinion. So it is from morningstar.com, and this is the main chart which I use. As you can see, the global sales went down in 2020, and the recovery was slow in 2021 and 2022 because of the chip crisis, and they predict that it will rebound relatively quickly to around 100 million units. So why do I think that this prediction is better than what we have seen on Cleantechnica? Simply because I believe that there is really an ongoing chip crisis, and because of the chip crisis there is a serious production bottleneck. Orc Invest doesn't think so. They think that the sales of ICE vehicles are not slowing down because of the chip crisis, but they are slowing down because people do not want to buy ICE vehicles. I disagree with them because the inventories, for example in the United States, are really low, and at the same time the prices are still high, both the new vehicle prices and the used vehicle prices. They went down a little bit in the last months, but they are still very high. So both of these things, the inventory and the high prices, show that there is a huge demand for all type of vehicles, and that shows that there is a production bottleneck clearly. And the most important reason for that can be the ongoing chip crisis. At the same time, I think that we are already 2 years in the chip crisis, and sooner or later it has to end, and I see some signs that it is starting to end. So I think this year or next year it will end completely. This is the reason why we might have this fast recovery. This is a 9% recovery, which is great. And from 2022 to 2024, it is 13%. And I believe this is what will happen. This is the most likely scenario. Okay, so I have used this data, and the real data is this part, and this is the estimation with darker blue. This one is coming from the IEA website, as I have explained earlier. And these even darker blue are just my predictions. I simply added about 3 million new vehicles each year to have some new data from 2027 to 2029, because we will need it in our calculations. So if we subtract the BEV sales from all the vehicles, we get the ICE sales. And this is column I. So it is a simple subtraction. And I have plotted this, and this is the result. So this is the ICE vehicle sales, both passenger and commercial. I will talk about this later. And here is the result. As you can see, the ICE sales collapsed in 2020. The recovery is slow, and even though the BEV sales will grow, the recovery from the ongoing chip crisis will still be bigger than the BEV sales growth. So the ICE vehicle sales probably will grow this year, and they start to slow down next year, even steeper in 2025, and 2026 is where it already starts to dive deeply. And of course it goes down more in 2027 and 2028. In 2029 this is below zero, but that is because we are using an exponential function for BEV sales. Okay, and what does this show us? Actually, this looks much more like a cliff to me than what we have seen before on the Cleantechnica page, especially in 2027. But to me this shows that those automakers which are planning to only come out in 2026 with their dedicated BEV platform are quite late. Actually, they are almost the last minute guys, in my opinion. And Toyota and Honda are such automakers. I will talk about these two automakers in the next video. Okay, now let's go further. I wanted to see how much of these sales are passenger cars and how much are commercial vehicles. Unfortunately, I have found this OICA webpage, which is International Organization of Motor Vehicle Manufacturers. Unfortunately, they do not have data for many years, at least not on one website. But they have separate data for the passenger car sales, and separate data for the commercial vehicle sales. So I have gathered this in this green part. These are the passenger car sales. These are the commercial vehicle sales, and this is the sum of these. Unfortunately, there is some problem with the data. So this number is the same as this, which shows that probably that is right. This is not completely the same as this, but that is okay. However, this number in 2019 is the same as the IAE number was in 2018, and almost the same as the Morningstar data was in 2018. So it is possible they have mixed up something. But nevertheless, I have calculated the ratio between the passenger car sales and the all vehicle sales. And I have got around a 0.683 difference. I've also calculated the same ratio using not the OICA data, but the Morningstar data. And here are the numbers. So what we can see, these ratios are around 0.7. And what I did is I wanted to have a prediction about the global passenger car sales. So I have used the prediction for the all vehicle sales and simply multiplied it by 0.7. And this is how I got these yellow numbers. At the same time, I have calculated the passenger BEV sales, and here is it for 2022. Where do I get this number? We have the number for all BEVs sold. It is here. It is 7.6 million. And fortunately, I have found on markets and markets.com that in 2022, 353,000 units were sold on the commercial vehicle market. That is a much lower number than I thought, but I simply took that number and subtracted it from the all BEV sales. And I have assumed that the passenger BEV sales will grow at the same pace as all BEV sales. So by 50%. And these are the numbers which I've got. And then I took all the passenger car sales and I have subtracted the BEV sales, and the result were the ICE passenger car sales. And you can see the result here. So this is the ICE passenger car sales in my model. And as you can see, there will be still a recovery in 2023, but it is smaller. In 2024, we will go back a little bit, maybe at the same level than we were in 2022. And then we start to go down on a cliff, especially in 2026. So this chart is even more frightening, I believe, for ICE makers than the previous chart, because it is steeper. It goes below 0 in 2028. While if we go back to the previous chart, in 2028 it is still positive. Again, it goes below 0 because we use an exponential function for the BEV sales growth. Okay, so we have seen in visual format how the ICE sales will collapse according to a scenario where BEV sales grows 50% per year. It seems that those automakers that rely mostly on ICE sales are still safe until 2024. But from 2025 and especially from 2026, the situation gets much more heated for them, especially if we only focus on the passenger car market. There are some automakers like Toyota and Honda which are planning to come out with their dedicated BEV platforms and with more volume only from 2026. Based on the charts I have showed you, you can have an idea why I think that this is way too late. However, I plan to talk about this topic in a separate video. If you have found any mistakes in this video, or you have any good insights to share, please write to me in the comments. Otherwise, see you in the next video. Okay, we have arrived to the end of this video. If you liked it, please don't forget to comment, share and give it a thumbs up. And if you like the channel, don't forget to subscribe. Thank you.